Welcome to CAM Matters, Condos, Co-ops, HOAs, and beyond. Betsy Barbieux is an informational leader in Florida on community association living, rights, and obligations. She is an expert on the rights and obligations of owners as well as the association. If you live or are planning to live in the state of Florida, there's a good chance you'll be part of a community association. And by the end of this show, you'll know a little bit more about community associations and why they matter.
Hello and welcome to the May 2025 episode of CAM Matters. I'm Suzanne Lynn with Betsy Barbieux. And Betsy, well, we have got a lot to cover. I mean, if you weighed out the papers that you had to bring in today, you probably needed a briefcase. It wasn't that easy to, maybe a crane. I don't know.
This is one new law.
What? Let's talk about Bill.
And I want to give a shout out to Fred Gray from Gray Systems because he has a wonderful 2-page summary. Thank you, Fred. Thank you.
It's not those. It's so beautiful.
And for those who may or may not remember, Fred Gray is my mentor. I trained with him for 10 years before I started Florida CAM School. So thank you, Fred, for this wonderful summary because this is just ridiculous.
There's just no other word for it. Betsy, where do we begin about Bill 913? What is it? What are the big changes? I know it's going to the governor. It looks like he's going to sign it. So
looks like it. I'm being self-serving, but the part that concerns me is the requirements on managers and management companies. I will come back and touch on that, but there are changes for condominiums and co-ops that have to do with the reserves and being able to borrow money for your reserves and changes in voting for material alterations and video conferencing for meetings, providing links to the owners. There's some additions to the official records that have to be on your website. And condominiums and co-ops now have to create an account with the DBPR and provide certain information, which is crazy because the Division of Condominiums already has that information. So anyway, but the part that concerns me is the new requirements for managers. And if you'll give me just a second here.
Okay. Because there's already so much on them.
Yeah. And, we have to now, last year we had to report if we were managing an HOA, we had to report that we're managing an HOA and had to take additional different continuing ed classes, which makes it hard for me as a school to combine all of those new requirements into the existing requirements for the managers who don't manage HOAs. But the requirements to list on our licenses, the management company or the association that we work for, it looks like I have to tell, as a management company, it looks like I have to tell the division all of my clients' names. And somehow that seems wrong.
That's revealing a lot of information.
To the division who my clients are.
Right.
That doesn't seem right to me.
What do you think the heart is behind that? What was the reason behind it? If we can kind of start there.
I suspect, I don't know for sure, I would suspect that this is still some of the fallout from it just lost my mind here. The Hammock Dunes HOA issues several years ago that generated a lot of the law last year for homeowner association managers and homeowner associations with the record keeping and the hurricane shutter specifications and all that. I suspect it's still part of that.
Okay.
And the management company has always had to report the managers who work for them. Mm-hmm. But they changed they've changed the requirement to add that management company has to report who they serve.
Okay.
I just think that's
We've got an issue with that.
fundamentally wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I have a horrible issue with that.
Betsy,
I should reveal my clients.
compare for me. Is that like, compare for me, it would be like a doctor revealing patients to,
Well,
how would you?
Probably not quite that extreme, but it would be like,
A hairdresser giving her clients' names to
yeah,
an agency or something like that.
or veterinarian giving their clients' names to.
Okay.
Well, let's see who else is realtors giving their clients' names. It's the same under the same department. Geologists giving their clients' names. Somehow that doesn't seem right about that. Not that I have anything to hide, but it's nobody's business who my clients are.
Right. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Betsy, I also want to go.
Yeah, Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you were talking in the beginning about why some of these changes happen, and you really piqued my interest on changes with reserves. Can we dive into that just a little bit more? Because that's always a kind of sticky thing, right?
The reserves is a sticky thing, and I haven't had time to actually digest what it says. And what my advice would be is whoever has done your reserve study and your milestone inspection report, everybody needs to reach back to them and find out how the new laws impact them. The reserve study specialists will be the best ones to comment on that.
Because it's not going to be, they haven't loosened the laws, right? If anything, they've made things more.
No, they're making them worse. And for an association to be able to borrow money to fund their reserves seems fundamentally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Borrow money for to save for your reserves doesn't seem right.
No.
Every condominium and co-op association now in the state of Florida has to create an account with the DBPR.
And tell me again what those initials mean.
But like I said earlier, the division already has an account for every Department of Business and Professional Regulation. And under the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, there are two divisions. Go down a tier. There are two divisions that we deal with. One is the Division of Professions that oversees our licenses, and one is the Division of Condominiums that oversees condominium and co-op boards of directors and their developers, if their developer is still there. Well, all condo and co-ops already have an account under the Division of Professions. They already have an account there. But this is saying they have a paper account, but this is saying they now must create an online account, which is challenging because you have to list an email. The email is most likely going to be that of the manager or the management company.
Right.
If not, it's going to be the email of a board member, neither of which stays the same. Managers and management companies change and board members change. So to put in an email for somebody to get the notices from the division, they won't get them.
Doesn't right.
Often as board members change and as often as managers and management companies change, it doesn't make any sense to put all of that contact information in there. I don't know how you keep it current. And I deal with quite a few communities that do not have a manager. So they're not going to know any of these laws.
Oh my goodness.
They're not going to know any of them. They don't have a manager or a management company. Right. And this somehow continues to escape the state, the legislators. It continues to escape them that not everybody has a manager. And there's going to be a whole bunch of little bitty communities who I can think of probably a dozen right here, right around my office that aren't going to have any clue of these new reporting requirements. And so it just seems, it seems like if most everybody complies, but others don't have to because they don't know. doesn't make any sense.
It's getting, well, I think the word you used was ridiculous. It's getting out of control. It really is. Betsy, let's take a quick break because there's a couple things I want to come back to regarding this Bill 913 that looks like it's going to be signed by the governor. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Are you ready for a new career? Do you have skills or interest in management, real estate, construction, maintenance, accounting, strategic planning, project management, budgets, human resource management, lawn and landscaping, pool services, or any other expertise needed to operate a community association? If you do, community association management could be for you. For more information, feel free to email Betsy at betsy@floridacamschools.com or visit the Florida Cam Schools website at www.floridacamschools.com. Florida Community Association Management continues to grow. Career opportunities abound.
And welcome back to this episode of CAM Matters. I'm Suzanne with Betsy Barbieux, and we're talking today about Bill 913 that looks like it's going to the governor and that he's going to sign it. So let's dig into this more. What else is in there? In the 191 pages.
191 pages. Most of the pages have no changes on them, so I don't know why they do it that way. But one of the other things that changed last year that was only for HOA managers was they had to notify the communities that they managed of their hours, their location, provide a copy of their contract if asked, and provide the individual owners in a community of certain information if they managed an HOA. Now they have made that requirement for all of us, whether we manage a condo, co-op, or HOA. So we have to provide the community with our contact information, our hours of operation, an outline of the services that we render, and we have to attend at least one meeting, annual meeting or board meeting a year. That was just for HOA managers, but now it seems to be for all of us.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, I think we all attend at least one meeting a year, but apparently somebody didn't.
So as I'm looking at this, there's changes with licenses, financial reporting, structural integrity. Let's talk about how this affects your business. Cam schools, Florida Cam Schools. How do you adjust that? What changes do you need to make?
The adjustment for me is creating and putting this into course material so that I can present it at the summit in August. So the challenge for me is, and I need to also go back and look at the other bills to see what else passed that the state will require to put in our legal update. The other challenge for me, which isn't necessarily for very many other people, is making sure that I get all of these law changes into my board certification classes.
Right.
So I have to make sure I get it into that and get the relevant parts into the pre-licensing classes. As far as the changes to the reserve funding and the loans and the structural integrity reserve study and the milestone inspection, I, by choice, do not manage anything that is 3 stories or higher. I can't be involved in so many other details and do a school at the same time. So by choice, I am leaving the new information. I strongly urge those of you who are subject to the SEERS and the milestone that you reach back out to your reserve specialist and have them update you. There are some different changes on funding. It looks like the state is going to be required to provide some kind of scale or schedule for determining the replacement value. There have been some changes in the insurance requirements for condominiums. So just be sure that you attend a legal update this year. I know some managers are exempt because they've had a license more than 10 years, which is beyond the craziest.
We're going back to those
requirement.
Right.
of why on earth they would exempt any of us from any education is beyond me. So
they're
you
exempting
just cannot.
education, but then they're adding to the law.
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
Yeah. Okay.
they also have added, and I haven't had time to totally digest it, but they've added a phrase that has to be included in our management contracts or employment agreements. They've added a phrase that must be included. I don't know if I can find it real quick or not. In bold print that says something like, it says something to the effect of, we're required to comply with all the parts of the law. It's like, okay. All right. Okay. I can't find it real quick.
That's all right. But
It's like, okay, so beware, everybody out there. There's some changes that are to be included into your management contract or your employment agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, when I'm trying to look for it and find
No, that's fine.
find it.
That's fine. You can keep leaving through because I'm going to give you an opportunity. It seems like so much sense to talk about the Yes conference coming up.
Here it is.
Here
It does. It said, all right, this is supposed to be in your. This is to be in your contract in at least 12-point font. And if any of you come to my pre-licensing class, you know we make a whole lot of fun about the 10-point font. But the contract in at least 12-point font has to have the community association manager shall abide by all professional standards and record-keeping requirements pursuant to Part 8, Chapter 468, Florida statutes. So you have to have that statement in 12-point font in all of your contracts now.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Meaning and more laws?
I don't know why you wouldn't comply with everything in Chapter 468, but we do have record-keeping requirements, which, other than keep the records, I don't know what else the requirements are. They've added some to the list of official records to keep, but not all managers keep records.
Right.
Sometimes the association has possession of the records, not us. So legislators don't know how we do our job. So it's hard for them to really make laws.
And they're not asking. They're not asking. Yeah.
No. Or at least not me, but I'm not really anybody. So
yeah.
But
you are.
It is difficult.
Yeah.
And so, but 191 pages, though there aren't changes on every page, it still is just a little bit much. And, you know, maybe you end on a positive note.
Yeah. Why more?
Oh, I have all my sponsors for the summit.
I was going to move into the yes because it's more important than ever that people go and get training and updates with things that are changing like this.
Jane Boland, the attorney, one of my favorite attorneys from South Florida, is coming up to do the legal update. She's going to help me with some panel discussions.
Okay.
I plan to have a panel of experts to talk about what all they've observed during the last year with the hurricanes and all the changes with the SEERS and the milestone, all of those things. I have a panel of experts, and then I'll have a panel of managers that will talk about their personal experiences over the last year. And so that'll be day one. And then day two will be our legal update. And then I'm going to lead discussions on CAM fundamentals, meetings and record keeping and things like that, that I think it's time that we revisited the basics. I've had a couple of seasoned managers come back and take the pre-licensing class just to sit in and go back to being refreshed on what they were originally supposed to learn. So I'm going to go back and do a kind of like a CAM fundamentals of meetings, meeting mechanics. Why are we here? What's the purpose of the community association? And then what is the purpose of the board? I think we've forgotten. And certainly legislators have. So
revisit the seating.
I'm looking forward to it.
You know, one of my favorite things that you do, and I don't know if you're going to include it, is the whole disc thing, how people communicate, because so much boils down to what we're saying and how we're saying it, you know? So
we did some of that in the last 2 years with the communication styles. So the managers were able to actually do their own profiles and talk with them, with each other, themselves and with each other about all of the strengths of their communication styles and how they might adapt or change a little bit of the wording.
Yeah.
As they talk to other people who have different communication styles.
Huge. So big. So, we want to end on a positive note. Do you have any sponsor spots still open?
No, they're all filled, and I've actually made an extra 1 or 2 spots.
Okay,
just because people kept wanting to come. But this is the year that I have only one sponsor from each kind of category.
Right.
So,
right. Nice.
You know, so
very nice. And then if people want to register,
if I have others that are not. Registration's open. I already have registrations.
Yep.
I've even got people who aren't licensed yet who are coming to the pre-licensing class. They've already signed up for the summit.
Wow.
So they're coming.
That's wonderful.
It'll be a great way to network, great way to really get up to speed on doing your job. So I hope.
Betsy, I'm such a big believer that, I mean, it is what you know, but so much of it is who you know too. Who can you reach out to and ask a question and be mentored by and just connect with and get answers? And you provide so much more than just book education, book knowledge. You know, that networking is invaluable.
If I didn't have people to call, I don't know how I would know as much as I know. I'll learn as much from other people as I do reading statutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's good. As we start to wrap up, what are some final thoughts? What advice would you give when it comes to this? If this bill, we all of a sudden look at the news and the bill's passed.
Yeah.
What advice would you say?
I think the feeling is that it will be. Everybody needs to get a copy of it. You can go to my Florida Senate, floridasenate.com or floridahouse.com, but you need to get a copy and you need to go through it. They made about the same changes to the co-op law as they did the condo law.
Okay.
And a lot of the manager changes that they made last year, they've now made it not only for HOA, but for all 3. But we now have requirements to register as managers and management companies. We have to register certain information with the state. And it looks like we have, I think, until October 2025 to do that.
Okay. 191 pages. Is there any chance that they're going to highlight what the changes are so you don't have to read through the whole thing? Is it?
Well, the changes are always underlined.
Okay.
Yeah, the changes are always underlined. So as I'm looking through here, I'm thinking, well, they sure put a whole bunch of extra pages in here that don't have any underlining. So the change, you don't have to guess what the changes are. They're underlined. And some, and then part of the material is condo only. So if you're not co-op, you don't need to read the last half for the 191 pages.
Right. That would be overwhelming.
The first part of it, starting, looks like on page 24, is the requirements for the new manager, or the new laws for the managers.
Okay. Sounds good. Any final thoughts?
No, just hang in there. I was hoping that they would veto a lot of the laws from last year. I was hoping that they would rescind a lot of the laws from last year, but they didn't.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to talk next month.
Sure.
And it's going to be right around the corner. So we'll Betsy, thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for watching and for consuming, whether you're listening. Would you please rate the shows? Let Betsy know that you're listening. Reach out to her. It really makes a difference. We thank you so much. This is CAM Matters. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to CAM Matters. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. For more information, feel free to email Betsy at betsy@floridacamschools.com or visit the Florida Cam Schools website at www.floridacamschools.com. Information provided on this show is general in nature and does not constitute legal advice. Please contact a licensed attorney for your specific situation.